G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome back to Monday Musings, the show where I ramble for about 5 to 10 minutes, and occasionally you guys get something out of it that you can use in your everyday life to, better yourself in some way or to get more out of life. So very recently, a friend contacted me on Skype, gave me a call, and wanted to bounce some ideas off me. He had a very general sort of idea, very vague, but he wanted to work it through a bit. That's pretty cool. I'm pretty into that sort of thing. Being a bit of an entrepreneur myself, I really like the idea generation and talking through ideas and developing them and fleshing them out and things like that. So since his idea was pretty vague, we sort of talked about it a bit, and I think he might have made a little bit of progress. And then we got to talking about just the idea, the concept of idea generation in general, like what goes into actually coming up with ideas and how to actually work through an idea, because it can be quite a difficult thing to do. As a YouTuber, and just in a more general sense as somewhat of an entrepreneur, coming up with ideas and working through them is pretty much what I do every day. I need to have a constant flowing list of ideas for videos, ideas for what I can do in the long term to improve my channel, to grow my audience, to be more successful at things I do, and then other ideas just in general, like in personal development, and a lot of the things that I talk about in these Monday Musings episodes. So that's the topic for this week's Monday Musings. The footage you should be seeing in the background should be some Path of Exile from my Fire Trap Searing Bond Templar that I've been having a lot of fun with, focusing on a lot of burn damage, and it's been really fun to level. We'll see how effective it is in the future, but so far I've been really enjoying it, and hopefully I can take it to some maps pretty soon and give you guys another, a more in-depth video on that. So back to the topic at hand. I want to talk about just how to come up with ideas, because ideas and working through ideas and fleshing things out, that's probably many topics to cover really. So I just want to focus really in on the one thing here, generating ideas in the first place. Now I've talked about this a little bit on my other channel, ZiggyD, in terms of coming up with ideas for videos, and maybe if you've seen that you might be a bit familiar with what what I'm about to talk about, but it's not just something limited to coming up with ideas for videos. It's something that can help you out in everyday life, whether you work a job, whether you're trying to come up with your own business ideas, or whether you just, enjoy thinking. As I'm sure many of you guys who actually enjoy watching these Monday Musings episodes do actually enjoy thinking. That's something I enjoy. So a lot of the things that I've learnt about idea generation and just about how the mind works in general have come from this book here, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is it's a very highly recommended book. It came recommended to me by my brother-in-law, essentially, and he said it's kind of one of those books that just changes the way you view your mind, the way you view other people, the world in general. A very, very sort of life-changing book. I'm about halfway through it, and every chapter I read, I get something really big out of. I'll put a link to it in the description below, and it will be an Amazon affiliate link, so if you happen to feel like picking up the book through Amazon, then that will send a few spare dollars my way from Amazon. So there's always that. I've got to try and earn a living with what I do, and that's one idea of how I can go about doing that. So this book, Thinking Fast and Slow, talks about sort of these two parts of the brain. There's like the fast part of the brain that's like the autopilot sort of thing, and then the slow part of the brain that's the the thinking deeply sort of thing. So Here's an example I want to give to you to illustrate this whole thing that I'm going to talk about in generating ideas. And we use this example to actually come up with our own ideas. Say you're going for a jog or a run with a friend. It's pretty difficult. You're not a very you don't run every day. Your friend doesn't run every day, but you're trying to get fit. So it takes a fair bit of mental exertion to focus on running fast. Now, while you're running, you guys are talking not really about much. You're able to just focus on running and just have some casual chit chat and banter. However, your friend lays something big on you, like a big relationship sort of thing. Like he's having some relationship problems. It's pretty complicated, and he's really asking you for some hardcore advice. All of a sudden, you stop running because you need to focus. You need to think. Now, you've probably noticed this happen before, where you've been doing something like running, or and then you have to slow down and stop, or even maybe stop and sit down to talk it through, because you can't really focus when you're putting that mental exertion into running. Like you're really focusing on running, and the brain is very is very one-sided. We talk a lot about multitasking, but usually that's actually slotting tasks in between each other. It's actually very difficult to do multiple things at once, and it's very hard for our brain to really come up with ideas when we're stressing ourselves out, basically, when we're doing something that requires a fair bit of focus. So yeah, I'm sure you guys have been in that situation before, where you've been running along and someone's asked you a hard math problem and you've had to slow down to answer it. So that's pretty normal, and that's an interesting sort of thing to realize about how the brain works. So after struggling to come up with YouTube videos a couple months ago, I read about this. I read about this, like this example here that I just gave you guys, and it got me thinking. I've noticed that a lot of the time I'm coming up with ideas for videos is when I'm doing something that doesn't require any other thought, and I'm basically forced into a situation where I'm not thinking much. So a good example of that is, and this is what I'm happy to share because I get a lot of my ideas while I'm having a shower. See, being a very computer-oriented person, spending a lot of my time gaming, spending a lot of my time reading, or doing something, like I am an information addict. If I'm not learning something or reading something or watching something or doing something mentally strenuous, I kind of stress out that I should be doing something. So that's fine. It's what I enjoy. It's kind of the way I am, but it does mean that I don't have very much room in my day to actually come up with ideas. So noticing this about that I was coming up with most of my ideas when I was having a shower, I decided I need to take some time each day to give myself room to come up with ideas. So if you're living fairly fast paced and you find yourself struggling to come up with ideas, and maybe you can't even get to sleep at night, because when you do finally lie down and you don't have anything to focus on, your mind's probably buzzing with all these ideas. And that's good, but you kind of need to go to sleep when you actually go to bed. So that can be kind of awkward, and I've been in that position many times before. It can be quite difficult to get to sleep when you're turning over lots of ideas from the day, because you haven't given yourself time to actually come up with any ideas. So here's what I suggest, and here's what I've practiced and had a lot of success with when it comes to giving my brain the opportunity to come up with ideas. Walking is good. I mentioned, running, you have to slow down, so you don't want to go for a run or do something strenuous. The exception is if you run all of the time, then it's a lot easier for you and you don't have to focus on it so much. But do something that doesn't require too much focus. Cycling around the park on a path I already knew. So if you're going somewhere new, if you're cycling somewhere new, you kind of have to focus on where you're going so you don't get lost, and you have to pay attention to things on the path and things on the road and stuff like that. So that's not the best time to be coming up with ideas, although that's a good thing to do anyway. So go for a cycle around somewhere you've been plenty of times before, somewhere very familiar. Go for a walk that you've been very familiar, or do something that's very relaxed, doesn't require any mental focus. That maybe isn't too strenuous. I guess if you have a pretty easy lawn to mow, you could mow the lawn and come up with some ideas while you're doing that. Often when I was working, that was probably one of the big benefits of actually working. I was working towards the final years of my working. I was doing working in distributions. I was splitting pallets, cutting boxes, folding the boxes up, taking the stuff out of the boxes, putting them in a thing, and sending them off. Not very mentally straining. It was kind of hard work sometimes, but not very mentally straining. So I had plenty of time to come up with ideas, and I thought a lot then. That was when I was really addicted to StarCraft, and I was coming up with ideas constantly, and that's what ended up leading me to starting up a website and eventually getting into YouTube, which I'm sure some of you guys already know that story. So yeah, give yourself time, give your brain some room to actually think of ideas. If you work all day and then you come home, you get on the computer and you play games and you watch TV and you're doing all this stuff that's occupying your brain, and then you're struggling to come up with ideas. Maybe you want to start up a business or something, but you just don't have time to think about it. Give yourself some brain food. So you do your reading and your research and things that you want to do. But then even if you have to go full on into actually getting into meditating or something, where you basically just sit quietly, which is kind of what meditating is for me, at least. Just sitting quietly and giving yourself time to think. And I guess also another key point is to not try to force yourself to think about one specific topic. Every time I've tried to do that, I've not had much success. So if you just sort of go with the flow of your thoughts, you've given yourself this time. You're like, okay, I want to come up with a business idea, but you're thinking about a video game, that you play or that you really enjoy playing. Maybe you're thinking of a new build for Path of Exile. That's fine. Let yourself think through that, because eventually, the brain kind of goes through these paths, and you might eventually get to some interesting concepts and ideas. And maybe if you just find you're thinking about Path of Exile all the time, or another video game, or something else all the time, and not about what no, I can't think about this, I need to think about a business idea. Maybe your business idea will actually come out of what you're thinking about all the time. After all, our business ideas and our best ideas come out of our passions. And, sometimes you just sort of have to embrace that, and if your mind wants to think about that, let it think about that, and try not to force it to do something it doesn't want to do. So anyway, hopefully you guys have gotten something out of this, and able to, over the next few days, maybe take a bit of time out of your day to do something that's not too mentally strenuous, so that you can come up with some cool ideas, and hopefully that helps you out. Anyway, that's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.